right, well, good morning, Grace Community Church. Good to see you today. So I want to say hello to everyone who's joining us on Facebook or gracemontrose.org or on YouTube. And hey, I want to let you know that we have capacity for you here. And if you want to be outside, we actually put a TV on the patio, and you can come to church outside too. So come on and join us. We miss you, and thank you for joining us online as well. So I don't know if you guys saw about a week ago, that guy who got bit in Florida by a nurse shark. Did you see that? Just kind of grabbed onto his arm and just stayed there. It wouldn't let go. And the more he tried to pull, the harder it would clamp down. And but it was really interesting. There was like a video of him, and it's just like he didn't even care. He's just kind of laughing. People are saying, "Does it hurt?" He's like, "No, it doesn't hurt." And he's riding around in this little dune buggy and just kind of laughing and having a great time. And I just thought, that would not be me. I'd be stabbing the thing in the head. I'd be punching. I would do whatever I could to get it to let go. But he didn't even matter. I thought, man, that's a tough dude right there. It's just not like me. And I don't know if you've seen The Relevant, and I'm not suggesting necessarily that you do, but it's about Hugh Glass. And as best as we know, what happens is a guy, he goes and he gets attacked by a grizzly bear. And I mean, in a serious way, where his ribs were exposed and he was left for dead. His companions actually took his stuff and just left him there. And he was 200 miles from where he needed to be. And over the next 6 weeks, he basically crawled back. He built a raft and floated down with it. He would purposely have maggots get into his infection to kind of clean it up a little bit so he could keep going. And, that's a tough guy right there. And so what I want you to think about who is the toughest guy or gal you know. Who's the toughest person you know? All right, you got him in mind? I was thinking about how I went hiking with my daughter, and I hiked for about 50 miles. She hiked for about 500 miles. And I was, on my part of it with her, I was complaining. I was like, oh, I got these blisters, and they're just like, oh, they hurt so bad. And, she's like, she takes her shoes off. She's like, Dad, I've named all my blisters. Like, you want to see some blisters there? I mean, her foot was a blister, And so she's a little tougher than I am. But when you think about these people that are tough that you have in your mind, do you think about words like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? And we're going to really zero in on this one. When you think about that tough person, do you think about gentleness? I mean, gentleness, that's kind of like the squishy, soft fruit of the Spirit, isn't it? Well, let's be gentle. I mean, when you're sending your kid out into the field to play, you don't say, all right, son, go out there and be gentle out there, right? What do you say? You say, go out there and kill him. And it's okay that you do that because I'm telling my kid about your kid. Go out there and kill him. Come on, you win. But I want to tell you what, I actually think that gentleness has more to do with power than any of the other fruits of the Spirit. And I think actually the people who are powerful and who are strong have the best potential of using and administering gentleness. They use gentleness most effectively. In fact, in order to be gentle, I think you have to be strong. And so this is what I think gentleness is. I think gentleness is having the power, but showing restraint. Think about it. You get a toddler, and he's around a dog. What's the first thing you tell the toddler? Be gentle. Why? Because he has the power to pull its tail, or pull its ears, or pull its fur. Now, he may pay for it, right? But he still has that power to do it. And you're like, no, show restraint. Don't use that power that you have. And see, gentleness is seen by many of us as the sissy fruit. But I want to tell you, I think it's the power fruit. And I think it takes a lot of power and a lot of strength. And I think about that scene in Secondhand Lions when Uncle Hub, remember the 4 punks come in and then he beats them up? That's like, I love that scene. I don't know if you guys like that scene, but why do I love that scene? Because he has the power to refrain. He doesn't need to use it. He's ready to sit back. He doesn't want to cause any problems, but when he needs to, he exercises it. And see, gentleness is knowing when to use the power that we're given. And I want to give you what I think is probably one of the most beautiful examples ever of a true story that takes place, and it's amazing. It's found in John 8. And this is just such a beautiful, beautiful passage and story that includes gentleness. And it's John 8, verse 2. And at dawn, Jesus appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. And the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. And they made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" And they were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. See, because he can't win no matter what he says here. Because if he says, well, you don't stone her, then like, well, don't you believe in the law of Moses? That's what we're supposed to do. And if he says, well, you need to stone her, then it's like, well, the Romans haven't given us the power to execute someone. So there's really no way to win here. And so they're using this question to trap him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. And when they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "If any one of you is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." Now, what I want to know, I think what everybody wants to know, is what was Jesus writing in the dirt? I wish I could peek over his shoulder and just see what was going on there. And there's a number of theories, nobody knows. But some people say, well, he was writing down the sins of the people who were about to throw the stones. And if any of you are without sin, well, just take a peek over here before you pick up that stone and throw it. It's possible. Other people say that he wrote the name of the woman down. And they get that because in the temple, when someone was accused or brought to the temple, what they do is they would write down the names of those who were accused. And you notice that half of the people are missing, half of the guilty party is not here right now. And so writing that one name down, Jesus would be pointing out, wait a second, this is an incomplete trial that we're having. Other people say that this is actually a direct fulfillment of Jeremiah 17:13. And that Jesus was writing down the names of all the people who were about to throw the stones. And it says there that those who turn from you, their names will be written in the dust because they have turned from the spring of life. And so some that say this is actually a direct fulfillment of Jeremiah 17:13. We don't know. But you know what I'm really interested in? Not so much in what he wrote. I'm so fascinated by his posture. Because they're coming for a fight, right? They come storming in and they're looking for a battle, and what does Jesus do? He just kind of comes down and goes like this. And they look for this, they make it so urgent. It says that Jesus was teaching, and they just bring this lady to the forefront, like, no, we have to deal with this right now. This is the most important thing. And Jesus makes it so unurgent. Just kind of sits back and does the exact opposite of what's coming at him. The Bible actually talks about this. In Proverbs 15:1. It says that a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And see, this is how it works, is the wrath is coming at you. I mean, the person, they're just so angry, and it comes, and it's coming full force. And what a gentle answer does is it just kind of takes it, and it just kind of moves it on in a different direction. See, it was coming at you to do one thing, to start a battle, to start a fight. And you come and you respond in gentleness, and you turn the whole conversation. You ever done that before? You ever responded in gentleness, and all of a sudden the whole thing just starts to diffuse, and you could actually get to the real problem and the real solution? Just redirects everything that was going to take place. See, the problem, so many of us, our problem, it's not what you say. It's how you say it. And it's when you say it. And we've got to learn how to respond in gentleness. You could be right, but if you do it caustically, you do it with anger, you do it with force, all of a sudden it can't be received. And so I've got 4 words I want to teach you to never, ever say again. Because it's just not going to work. Every time you say this, it doesn't work. Okay, are you ready? 4 words to stop saying. Oh, and another thing. Never works. Never. You could be completely right. And the next thing that comes out of your mouth, it's said at the completely wrong time. So see, a gentle answer deals with what's right there in front of you. You're going to deal with this one thing. You're going to finish the matter at hand. And then that other thing, yeah, you need to bring it up. But bring it up like after this is all done. Bring it up weeks. Bring it up months later. Just hold on. I often tell the leaders here, I tell the pastors here at Grace, I say, listen, your job is to separate the coals, not to stir the pot. That's not what we do. As ministers and pastors and followers of Christ, we don't stir the pot, we separate the coals. Why? Because we're afraid of conflict? Absolutely not. Let me let you in on a secret. Ministry is conflict. And we're coming against these strongholds in people, and there's just conflict after conflict. I mean, that's just what it is. But why do we separate the coals? Why? So we could get to the real solutions. So we could get to the real problem. So we could diffuse this thing, and it's coming at us. I'm like, no, okay, let's just separate this. Let's bring gentleness in the middle of this so we could actually bring truth into it, and we could bring life into it. And see, some of you see the solution so clearly. You know exactly what has to happen, but you can't get there because you don't know how to bring it. You don't know how to speak it in a gentle way. You're right, but it doesn't always, it goes wrong because you don't know how to speak it. And see, gentleness is to have the power, but to show restraint. To have wisdom in the way we bring it. So, with that in mind, I'm going to teach you some gentle words. Okay, and so here's some things. If you're bad at this, if you're not very good at conflict, if you're not very good at being gentle, I just want you to write these down. And so these are just little tools, practical tools to do a biblical thing, which is to turn away wrath with gentleness, okay? So here's your first tool here. So here's something you can say. Write this down if you're bad at this, all right? So write down, I can see how that would be frustrating. Powerful, powerful thing to say, right? Because what are you doing? You're saying, okay, I'm listening. What do we want to say? Well, you, or can't you see? No, I can see how that would be frustrating. I am validating you. You've got something there. I'm listening. Here's another one. Really powerful one. Write this down if you struggle with this, all right? I could have done that differently. That's been a great one for me. And so, I'm thinking like, well, you did most of the wrong stuff, but like I did about that much wrong. And I could have done that much differently. And if I just would have changed that, maybe the outcome would have been different. Almost every single conflict, there is something that we can say, I could have done that differently. Shows ownership for the part that we did. Here's another one. I'm afraid that. I saw this one work with my sister. Now, she's doing really, really good, but she was a number of years ago, she'd been dating the same guy for 17 years. That seems a little long to me. And so the family, we would always kind of give these little passive-aggressive shots at her, and, we would kind of, oh, yeah, that guy, and, couldn't say good things about him. And I remember we were sitting there in Sam's, and we were sitting in front of the chicken, and we started talking about it, and I told her, I said, Lisa, I'm just afraid. I'm afraid that you're going to look back and you're going to regret it. And it's the first time of all these little barbs and all these little things that I've said that she heard me. She paid attention to what I had to say. Why? Because I was showing her that I care about her. I was concerned for her. I came out of concern, not out of my need to control or have things my way. And Jesus, he knows what we often forget, is that the real thing that matters is the person that's standing there right in front of us. The thing that matters. And it's amazing for Jesus that he approaches gentleness not just with the woman caught in adultery, but with those who are coming to accuse her. Working on their hearts, giving them an opportunity. And he knows what we need to remember is the thing that matters is our relationship with this person. What matters is this person's freedom and life and health. What matters is their relationship with God. And I love it that Jesus, he doesn't forsake the truth, but he also doesn't destroy the relationship for the sake of the truth. Isn't it amazing how he brings both of those things together in such a powerful, powerful way? So I'm going to give you a biblical formula right now for successful breakthroughs in your conversations. It's a biblical formula, and if you start doing this, you start using some of those phrases, I think things will change for you. I think you're going to see people actually starting to get free. Are you ready for the formula? Here it is. It's gentleness plus truth equals change. Gentleness plus truth equals change. See, now, if we do gentleness without truth, it seems like we're being nice, but we're not. It seems like we're being loving, but we're not, because we're not telling them the truth. So you got to have the truth in there. But if there's no gentleness, you know what? They're not going to listen to you. If all you can do is lay down the truth, listen, if you don't care about me, the truth is I don't care what you have to say. And I have a number of people tell me, you got to do this and you should do that. And it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But when someone says, Karl, listen, I'm concerned. I'm like, oh, okay, what? Because they care about me. And so I'll listen. I mean, aren't you the same way? Gentleness plus truth equals change. So, the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, they drop the rocks, they leave. And here we have the woman all by herself. And I love how Jesus approaches her. He doesn't say, okay, how many more homes are you going to have to wreck? He didn't say, well, was it worth it? I've heard a pastor say before, pastor in California, he says, of all the people in my office, I've never had a person who comes into my office and said, wow, that affair really worked out for me. He doesn't come and say, well, was it worth it? Have you ever had somebody on the hook before? Like they lied, and they know they lied? Or they just kind of messed up the whole thing, they messed up the job, or they clearly disappointed you. I mean, doesn't it kind of feel good to have someone on the hook? Why? Because you have the power, right? What are you going to do with it? Have you ever been the person on the hook? Like you said you were going to do it, but you didn't? Or you failed your spouse, or you just kind of messed the thing up. You know that you blew it. How does that feel? Horrible, right? Because you're powerless. They have the power. Now, think about this. How good it feels when they let you off the hook. Gina does this all the time. I'll be like, oh, honey, I'm sorry, I promised. I told you that I was going to pick that up, and I forgot. And she says, well, I didn't really need it anyway. I'm like, what? You want me to go get it right now? She's like, no, I'll just get it tomorrow. Okay. Everything's okay? Yeah, everything's fine. All right. Doesn't it feel good to be let off the hook? Can you let other people off the hook? Can you respond with their failures with gentleness, kindness? Now listen, there's a time to hold people to the fire. There's a time for accountability. There's no doubt about it. But if they already know it, if they're already covered in shame, if they've already messed it up, what good does it do to jab at them? What good does it do to just shove it in their face? See, gentleness, it is actually about what you do with the power that you have in your hands. And can you be gentle like our King? See, Jesus had all the power, all the glory, all the authority, and what does he do? He kneels down. Isn't that amazing? Twice. All the power, all the authority, all the righteousness, and what does he do? Neither do I condemn you. Lets her off the hook. Matthew 11:29, great description. Jesus describes himself. He says, take my yoke because I am gentle. I am gentle and humble in heart. Our God is gentle and humble in heart. Isn't that beautiful? We serve a gentle God. See, because Jesus, he lifts off burdens. What does religion do? It puts burdens on you. Jesus, his hands bring forgiveness. What does religion do? It brings condemnation. And see, this is why I want you to know him. This is why I want you to walk with him, because he is so for you. He is so good. He is so kind. He is so gentle. This is why I want you to bring your sins and just put them at his feet. Why? Because you're going to find guilt? Bring the sins because you're going to find demands for retribution? Because you're going to find anger? No, because you're going to find gentleness. You're going to find freedom. You're going to find life. He's going to let you off the hook when you bring your sin to him. Now notice, he told her the truth. He said, leave your life of sin. Sex outside of the context of a man and woman in marriage is sin. He said, you got to leave it. And why? Why does he tell her that? Because he cares so much about her. He's like, oh, dear, listen, no more broken homes. No more tearing apart your life anymore. No more of these soul ties, where you're connected with this guy and that guy and it has to be ripped apart and ripped apart. No more emotional damage for you. It's time for this to end, for you to be free. No more trying to fill this void that's in your heart with something that's never, ever going to fill. Would you just leave your sin and be free? See, gentleness is actually power with purpose. And the power is the life of the other person. It's the healing of the other person. It's the salvation. It's the freedom. It's the strength and the lifting up of the other person. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have an election coming up in 7 weeks. And first of all, Christian, listen, vote. Okay? We need you. Christian, vote. We need you to vote. Okay? But there's probably some things that you might have to say in the next 7 weeks. And I just want to challenge you. I want to encourage you. Think about how you say it. as the wrath comes your way, because it's going to come your way, can you respond with a gentle answer and turn it in the other direction? Look at 1 Peter 3, verse 15, talking about the truth of the gospel, any truth we have. He says, but in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But when we approach people with our answers, what do? We do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. See, because I don't know if what we have to say is really going to change the minds of the other side, but I truly believe that we can make a difference in their hearts with how we say it. I actually think how we say what we have to say can turn some opinions, can turn some hearts, can open up some minds. And it's so natural for us to fight fire with fire, but I've said it once, I'm going to say it again and again here. Grace Community Church, followers of Jesus, we fight fire with water. They come at us with wrath, we come with gentleness. So much more powerful. And I know it can be so hard to be gentle, but it actually shows that you're strong. You want a test of what you do with power? Well, let's see if you can be gentle. Let's see if you can be gracious. Let's see if you can be kind. And I'm growing in this one, but I got to tell you right now, I'm struggling with being gentle with one particular person, and it's myself. And I know that sounds a little silly, but one time I had a Christian counselor talk with me. He says, Karl, I wish that you could show the same grace and mercy to yourself that you are so ready to show to other people. And I think there's a number of you need to hear that right now. I wish that you could show the same grace and mercy to yourself that you are so ready to show other people. I wish that you could be gentle with yourself and kind with yourself. I wish you would let yourself off the hook. Because Jesus asked the woman, he says, has no one condemned you? And she said, no one, sir. And he says, neither do I. And he lets her off the hook. Why would you remain on the hook if he's letting you off? But I wonder if in her mind, does anyone condemn you? I wonder if she said, I do. I wonder if when she saw the wife of the man that she just slept with, she said, I do. I wonder if when she saw her own husband, if she said, I do. And she's got changes to make. She has apologies to give. There's no doubt about it. But God has let her off the hook. Why would she keep herself on it? God has shown you kindness and gentleness and grace. Why wouldn't you do the same? Don't you see how good Jesus is? He wants you to be free. He wants you to be restored. He wants you to have life. Why? So you can move forward. So you could go unencumbered. Listen, sin, it is a big, big deal. But you know what? It's not because of his anger. It's because of his love. Do you understand that God's anger actually shows that he loves? Do you get that? Because listen, if God didn't care, he would say, have at it. If he didn't love you, he'd say, yeah, do what you want. See, but the thing is, he loves you desperately, and he loves other people desperately. So when he brings sin into it, he's like, no, not that way. His anger actually shows his love. And have you noticed that even in the midst of this, how gentle and how kind he is with us? In his conviction, in his voice. Where did Elijah hear the voice of God? 1 Kings 19. So he's sitting there in this cave, and this wind, it comes in, but the Lord wasn't in the wind. And then there's this mighty earthquake, and the ground is rumbling, and the rocks are falling down, and it's just like this powerful thing, but the Lord wasn't in the earthquake. And a fire comes rushing in, but the Lord wasn't in the fire. Where was the Lord? The gentle whisper. And he says, Elijah, what are you doing here? What are you doing here, Elijah? What was he doing? Well, we read the day before that he was actually contemplating suicide. He said, I don't want to live anymore. He's hiding in this cave, and he's just undone, and God comes, not with the fire, not with the earthquake, not with the wind, but a whisper and says, what are you doing? Elijah, what are you doing? See, if you know the voice of God, you know it sounds like that. The voice of God, it doesn't ever scream harlot. It doesn't ever scream homewrecker. It doesn't scream hopeless. It never screams hater. I mean, that's how you can tell all these voices that are going on around us are not the voices of the Lord, because it gently whispers, behold. Behold. And he comes, he says, daughter, son, what are you doing? What are you doing here? So gentle, so kind, so powerful, so full of truth. Have you ever noticed that the voice of God, it's always void of pity? It never validates our self-loathing. I have tried so many times so hard to get God to join me on my whining, and he never does. Ever. You know, oh, God, I work so hard for you. Oh, God, you know, these people I'm trying to help, they can be so mean to me. And he'll just say, Karl, are you done? What are you doing, Karl? What are you doing? So gentle, so true, pulling us toward restoration, pulling us into his presence, pulling us into his arms. What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, my daughter? Neither do I condemn you. Now leave your life of sin. You know, I've been horrified by my own sin, but it's not because of God's condemnation. It's because of his kindness, his gentle conviction. And I hear that voice, Karl, you scarred them. Oh, shoot. Karl, you got to let that one go. Have you noticed how gentle he is in our growth? You know, I'd like him just to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and let's just get this whole thing over. But he's like an onion farmer, right? And he just kind of pulls back one layer, pulls back another layer, just gently kind of keeps pulling us back. And sometimes he'll take us beyond our limits, but he never pushes us over the edge. It's just amazing. The Holy Spirit is so perfect in his balance of challenge and gentleness at the same time. He's not going to leave you there, but he's so gentle, so kind. Just so amazing in his conviction. Powerful in his conviction and powerful in his kindness at the same time. He's so deliberate and so patient at the same time. And so you and I, we can be gentle in our conviction and in our conflict, and we can be gentle with our power because our Father is gentle with his. I just want you to know. You know, if you haven't come and just put your sins at the foot of the cross, if you haven't given your life to Jesus, let's just do that right now. So just do this. Just say, God, I bring my sin and I put it at your feet. I give you my life, Jesus, because you are good. And I want to know you, and I want to follow you, and I want to be with you. Lord, I just thank you for those who pray, and I ask, God, that you would just come and meet them. And those who want you, Lord, I know that you want to give yourself to them. God, I thank you that you're such a good, kind, gracious God, compelling us into relationship, setting us free from sin because you know the damage it causes. You know water, guys? Water is soft, right? There's no pain right there. Water's soft and gentle, but it's powerful. Can forge a canyon, can it? Can make the Grand Canyon. Water can destroy a rock. And you know what? Gentleness is the same way. Soft, but powerful. And I just think of our gentle God. Who is like our God? So holy and so kind. So righteous and so patient at the same time. So strong, but so gentle. And so I just want to close right now with a gentle blessing on your life. I want to close right now. We're going to sing this song over you. And I want you to understand it's God's heart for you. It's called The Blessing. And I want you to understand that he is for you and that he is with you and he is behind you and he is before you. And what he wants for you is life. What he wants for you is freedom, and what he wants for you is healing. So I'm going to sing. They don't let me have a mic. I have to turn my mic off during that part. But I'm going to stand up here, and I'm going to sing it over you because I want you to understand that this is coming, from our hearts, but it's coming from his heart. He's so for you. He is so for you. And so may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you. Lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So let's stand up and let us sing over you. And I just want you to receive these words that he has to sing over you right now. Just receive the blessing and understand his heart.